On the most brutal winter night of her life, Elena Carter was thrown out by her husband, called worthless because she couldn't have children. Shivering alone at a deserted bus station, she was on the verge of collapse when a stranger, Daniel Hayes, a widower raising 3 children, stopped in front of her. What began as a simple act of kindness quietly became the moment that would redefine both their lives. This is a story about salvation, hope, and love found where no one expected it. Stay until the end. Hit like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, let's begin. The cold didn't just bite, it carved. Elena Carter sat on the metal bench at the bus station, her thin coat doing nothing against the wind that sliced through the empty platform. Her hands were numb, folded tight against her stomach like she could hold herself together through sheer will. She couldn't. 3 hours ago, she'd had a home, a marriage, a life that looked right from the outside, even if it had rotted from the inside for years. Now she had a duffel bag with 2 days' worth of clothes, $43 in her wallet, and the word worthless still ringing in her ears. Marcus had said it like a diagnosis. Clinical. Final. You're worthless, Elena. You can't even do the one thing a wife is supposed to do. She'd stood there in their kitchen, his kitchen now, staring at the man she'd spent 8 years trying to love, trying to be enough for, and realized she didn't recognize him anymore. Maybe she never had. I want you out, he'd said, his voice flat. Tonight. She'd tried to argue, tried to reason, but Marcus had already moved on, literally. The woman's name was Simone, and she was younger, prettier, and according to Marcus, actually capable of giving me a family. So Elena had packed what she could carry and left. The bus station was supposed to be temporary, a place to sit and think and figure out her next move. Except she didn't have a next move. Her parents were gone. Her few friends had slowly drifted away during the years Marcus isolated her, bit by bit, until her world was just him and the desperate hope that maybe, one day, he'd look at her the way he used to. He never did. Now the last bus had come and gone, and the station attendant had locked up the ticket window and left, casting her a look that said, "Not my problem." The fluorescent lights overhead flickered weakly, buzzing like dying insects. The cold seeped through the bench, through her jeans, into her bones. Elena closed her eyes and tried to remember how to breathe. "Excuse me, are you okay?" The voice startled her so badly she flinched. Her eyes snapped open to find a man standing a few feet away, hands in the pockets of a heavy jacket, his breath misting in the freezing air. He looked mid-30s, dark hair slightly messy, with tired eyes that held something she couldn't quite name. Concern, maybe. Or just exhaustion. "I'm fine," Elena said automatically, her voice rough from cold and crying. He didn't move. "You don't look fine." She wanted to snap at him, tell him to mind his own business, but she didn't have the energy. Instead, she just looked away, hoping he'd take the hint. He didn't. "Look, I don't mean to intrude," the man said carefully, "but it's 12 degrees out here, and the station's closed. Do you have somewhere to go?" Elena's throat tightened. She shook her head once, sharp and small. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Okay. Listen, my name's Daniel. Daniel Hayes. I live about 20 minutes from here. I've got a guest room and it's warm. If you need a place to stay tonight, just until you figure things out, the offer's there." Elena finally looked at him. Really looked. He seemed genuine, but then again, so had Marcus once. "Why would you do that?" Daniel hesitated, then gave a small, sad smile. "Because someone did it for me once, and because leaving you out here feels wrong." She didn't trust him, but she also didn't have options, and the cold was starting to hurt in a way that scared her. "Just tonight," she said quietly. "Just tonight," Daniel agreed. Daniel's truck smelled like coffee and old French fries, and the heater took 3 full minutes to kick in. Elena sat stiffly in the passenger seat, her duffel bag clutched on her lap like a shield, watching the dark streets slide past. "So," Daniel said after a while, his tone deliberately light, "I should probably mention, I have kids. 3 of them. They'll be asleep when we get there, but just so you know what you're walking into." Elena blinked. "You have 3 kids?" "Yeah, Lucas is 10, Mia's 7, and Noah just turned 5. He said their names like they were the most important words in any language. It's just us. Their mom, my wife. She passed 2 years ago. I'm sorry, Elena said, and meant it. Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. Thanks. It's been hard, but we're managing. He glanced at her briefly. What about you? If you don't mind me asking, what happened? Elena stared at her hands. My husband decided I wasn't useful anymore. The words came out bitter and small, and she hated how pathetic they sounded. But Daniel didn't react with pity or judgment. He just nodded slowly, like he understood more than she'd said. His loss, Daniel said simply. Elena didn't believe him, but something about the way he said it, not like he was trying to comfort her, just like he was stating a fact, made her throat ache. They drove the rest of the way in silence. Daniel's house was small but tidy, a 2-story structure with a porch that creaked when they stepped onto it. He unlocked the door quietly, motioning for her to follow. Inside, the living room was cluttered in the way only a house full of kids could be. Sneakers by the door, a stack of coloring books on the coffee table, a blanket fort half collapsed in the corner. It smelled like laundry detergent and something faintly sweet, like someone had baked cookies earlier. It felt lived in. Loved. Elena stood awkwardly in the entryway, still holding her bag. Guest room's upstairs, Daniel said quietly, keeping his voice low. Second door on the right, bathrooms across the hall. There's clean towels in the cabinet if you want a shower. Thank you, Elena whispered. Daniel nodded. Then he paused, like he wanted to say something else, but decided against it. Get some rest. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Elena climbed the stairs slowly, her legs heavy and aching. The guest room was small and plain, a bed, a dresser, a window with thin curtains. It wasn't much, but it was warm. She set her bag down, sat on the edge of the bed, and finally let herself cry. Morning came too fast. Elena woke to the sound of chaos. Small feet thundering down the hallway, a door slamming, someone shouting about missing socks. She sat up slowly, disoriented, her body stiff from exhaustion and stress. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. She got dressed quickly, smoothing down her wrinkled shirt, and ventured downstairs. The kitchen was a disaster. Daniel stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with one hand while trying to pour orange juice with the other. A little boy, Noah, she guessed, sat at the table in mismatched pajamas, kicking his feet and humming off-key. A girl with dark braids, Mia, was arguing with an older boy, Lucas, about who got the last of the syrup. You had it yesterday, Lucas said. So? That doesn't mean you get it forever, Mia shot back. Guys, Daniel said tiredly, we have a whole bottle. You're fine. It's not the same, Mia insisted. Daniel looked up and saw Elena standing in the doorway. His expression shifted, surprise, then something softer. Hey. Morning. I didn't think you'd be up yet. I heard the commotion, Elena said, managing a faint smile. Lucas and Mia both turned to stare at her. Noah just kept humming, swinging his legs. Who's that? Mia asked bluntly. This is Elena, Daniel said. She's staying with us for a little while. Be polite. Hi, Lucas said cautiously. Mia tilted her head, studying Elena with the unnerving intensity only a 7-year-old could manage. Are you Dad's girlfriend? Mia. Daniel's face flushed. No, she's a friend. She just needed a place to stay. Oh. Mia didn't look convinced, but she shrugged and went back to her syrup argument. Elena felt her chest tighten. She didn't belong here. This was someone else's life, someone else's family. She was just passing through. Do you want some breakfast? Daniel asked, gesturing to the stove. It's just pancakes, but I'm fine, Elena said quickly. I should probably go. I don't want to intrude. You're not, Daniel said firmly. Then softer, stay. At least eat something. She hesitated, then nodded. It. Breakfast was louder than Elena had experienced in years. Lucas talked non-stop about a science project involving volcanoes. Mia demanded to know if Elena liked unicorns. She did, apparently, because Mia immediately declared them best friends. Noah spilled his juice twice and didn't seem bothered by it. And Daniel moved through it all with the practiced ease of someone who'd been doing this alone for too long. He wiped up spills, refereed arguments, reminded Lucas about homework, and somehow still managed to eat his own breakfast. Elena watched, something strange unfurling in her chest. This wasn't her family. But sitting here, listening to the noise and the laughter and the mess, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't completely invisible. After breakfast, the kids scattered. Lucas disappeared to his room to work on his project. Mia dragged Elena to the living room to show her an elaborate drawing of a dragon. Noah sat on the floor building a tower out of blocks. Daniel started clearing the table and Elena moved to help without thinking. "You don't have to do that," Daniel said. "I know," Elena said, "but I want to." They worked in comfortable silence, stacking plates, wiping down the table. It felt normal, easy, like something Elena had forgotten how to do. "So," Daniel said after a moment, "what's your plan, if you don't mind me asking?" Elena's hands stilled. "I don't know. I need to find a job, a place to stay. Figure out how to start over, I guess." "Do you have somewhere to go in the meantime?" She shook her head. "Not really." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down the dish he was holding and turned to face her. "Stay here." Elena blinked. "What?" "Stay here," Daniel repeated, "for as long as you need. The guest room's just sitting empty anyway. And honestly," he hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck, "I could use the help. With the kids, with the house. It's been just me for 2 years, and I'm barely keeping my head above water." "You don't even know me," Elena said, her voice shaking. "I know you're in a tough spot," Daniel said, "and I know what it's like to need help and not have anyone to ask. So I'm asking you, stay. Help me out with the kids, and in return you've got a roof over your head and time to figure out your next move. Fair trade." Elena stared at him, her mind racing. It was insane. She was a stranger. He was a single father with 3 kids. This could go wrong in 100 different ways, but she didn't have anywhere else to go. "Okay," she whispered, "just until I get back on my feet." Daniel smiled, and it was the first real smile she'd seen from him. Deal. The first week was awkward. Elena tried to stay out of the way, tried not to intrude on the rhythms of the household. But the kids didn't make that easy. Mia followed her everywhere, chattering endlessly about school and friends and her elaborate fantasy world involving dragons and princesses. Noah decided Elena was the best person to help him build block towers, even though she had no idea what she was doing. Lucas was more reserved, watching her with quiet curiosity, but not pushing. And Daniel was kind in a way that felt foreign to Elena. He asked how she was doing. He thanked her when she helped with dinner. He didn't expect anything from her except what she was willing to give. It was disorienting. One evening, after the kids were in bed, Elena found Daniel in the kitchen, staring at a pile of bills spread across the table. He looked exhausted, his shoulders slumped, his jaw tight. "Everything okay?" Elena asked quietly. Daniel glanced up, startled. Then he sighed. "Yeah, just trying to figure out how to make the numbers work this month. Daycare costs are killing me, and Lucas needs new shoes, and the furnace is making this weird noise that I'm pretty sure means it's dying." Elena sat down across from him. "Can I help?" "Unless you've got a magic solution for making money appear, probably not," Daniel said with a weak smile. "I'm good at budgets," Elena offered. "I used to handle all the finances for my—" She stopped. "For Marcus. But that life was gone now." "I'm good at budgets," she repeated. Daniel studied her for a moment. Then he slid the pile of bills across the table. "Knock yourself out." It took Elena 2 hours, but she found a way to shave off $150. By switching insurance providers and cutting a few subscriptions Daniel didn't even remember signing up for. She reorganized the payment schedule, flagged a billing error on the electric bill, and set up a system for tracking expenses. When she showed Daniel the new budget, he stared at it like she'd just handed him a winning lottery ticket. "How did you—" He shook his head, laughing in disbelief. "This is incredible. Thank you." "It's nothing," Elena said, but her cheeks warmed. "It's not nothing," Daniel said firmly. "You just saved me a massive headache. Seriously, thank you." Elena looked down at the table, something tight and painful loosening in her chest. When was the last time someone had thanked her for something she'd done? When was the last time someone had made her feel like she mattered? She couldn't remember. By the end of the second week, Elena had settled into a routine. She woke up early, made breakfast for the kids, got them ready for school. She spent her days cleaning the house, organizing cabinets, fixing things that had been broken for months. She cooked dinner, helped with homework, mediated arguments between Mia and Lucas over whose turn it was to pick the movie. It was exhausting. It was also the most alive she'd felt in years. Mia started calling her Auntie Elena, which made Elena's throat ache every time. Noah insisted on holding her hand whenever they went anywhere. Even Lucas, cautious and quiet, started opening up, telling her about his favorite books, showing her his drawings, asking her opinion on things. And Daniel. Daniel watched it all with something in his eyes Elena couldn't quite name. Relief, maybe, or gratitude, or something else entirely. One night, after the kids were asleep, Elena and Daniel sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets against the cold. The street was quiet, the sky clear and full of stars. "You're good with them," Daniel said quietly. "The kids. They really like you." "They're good kids," Elena said. "You've done an amazing job with them." Daniel snorted. "I'm barely holding it together. Half the time I have no idea what I'm doing." "You're doing better than you think," Elena said. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at her, his expression serious. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you regret staying?" Elena thought about it, about the chaos and the noise and the mess, about Mia's endless questions and Noah's sticky hands and Lucas's quiet smiles, about the way this house felt less like a stranger's home and more like something else. "No," she said softly. "I don't." Daniel smiled, and Elena realized it was the first time she'd seen him look truly happy. "Good," he said, "because I think you just saved us. All of us." The third week brought a new challenge. Lucas came home from school upset, his face red and blotchy from crying. Daniel was still at work, so Elena sat with him on the couch, waiting. "What happened?" she asked gently. Lucas shook his head, wiping at his eyes. "It's stupid." "It's not stupid if it made you cry," Elena said. Lucas was quiet for a long time. Then, in a small voice, he said, "There's a father-son science fair at school next month. All my friends are doing it with their dads, but—" He trailed off, his voice breaking. Elena's chest tightened. "You miss your mom." Lucas nodded, tears spilling over. "I miss her so much. And I know Dad's trying, but he's always tired, and I don't want to make things harder for him." Elena pulled Lucas into a hug, holding him while he cried. "Your dad loves you so much," she said quietly, "and I know it's hard. But you're not making things harder. You're his son. He wants to be there for you." "But what if I remind him too much of Mom?" Lucas whispered. "What if it hurts him?" "Then he'll hurt," Elena said honestly. "But that's not your fault. And he'll still show up for you, because that's what parents do." Lucas hugged her tighter, and Elena felt something crack open inside her. She'd spent so long being told she wasn't enough, that she couldn't give Marcus what he needed. But here, holding this heartbroken little boy, she realized something. Maybe she didn't need to be everything to everyone. Maybe she just needed to be enough for the people who mattered. But when Daniel got home, Elena told him about Lucas and the science fair. His face crumpled, and for a moment he looked completely lost. "I didn't even know," he said, his voice rough. "I should have—" "You couldn't have known," Elena said. "But you know now, so go talk to him." Daniel nodded and headed upstairs. Elena heard their voices, low and muffled, and then Lucas laughing. Really laughing. When Daniel came back down, his eyes were red, but he was smiling. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being here," Daniel said simply. "For caring." Elena didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded. The days blurred together after that. Elena stopped thinking of herself as temporary. She stopped waiting for the moment when Daniel would tell her it was time to go. Instead, she started thinking about staying. It terrified her. One morning, while the kids were at school and Daniel was at work, Elena sat at the kitchen table with her phone, scrolling through job listings. She needed to start planning for the future. She needed to figure out her next move. But every listing felt wrong. Every possibility felt like walking away from something she hadn't even realized she'd found. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Can you pick up the kids today? Meeting's running late. I owe you one." Elena smiled. "No problem. I've got it." She put her phone down and looked around the kitchen, at the drawings stuck to the fridge, at the stack of school papers waiting to be signed, at the coffee mug Daniel had left in the sink that morning. This wasn't her life, but maybe it could be.
Boy.
That night, after the kids were in bed, Elena found Daniel sitting on the porch again. She grabbed her blanket and joined him. "Rough day?" she asked. "Long day," Daniel said, "but not bad." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. "Elena," Daniel said after a while, his voice careful, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What do you want? I mean, long term. What are you looking for?" Elena's breath caught. She didn't know how to answer that. For so long, she'd wanted Marcus to love her, to see her, to choose her. Now? "I don't know," she admitted. "I thought I knew, but everything I wanted before, it doesn't make sense anymore." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." "What about you?" Elena asked. "What do you want?" Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at her, his eyes steady and serious. "I want my kids to be happy," he said. "I want to be a good dad, and I want—" He stopped, like he was weighing his words carefully. "I want to stop feeling like I'm drowning all the time." "You're not drowning," Elena said softly. "You're doing great." "Only because you're here," Daniel said, "and that scares me." Elena's heart stuttered. "Why?" "Because I don't know what happens if you leave," Daniel said, "and I don't want to find out." The words hung in the cold air between them, heavy and real. Elena didn't know what to say, so she just reached over and took his hand. Daniel squeezed back, and for the first time in a long time, Elena felt like maybe, just maybe, she'd found where she was supposed to be. The moment stretched between them, Daniel's hand warm in hers, and Elena felt something shift, not dramatically, more like a door she hadn't known was locked quietly clicking open. Then Mia screamed from upstairs. Both of them jerked to their feet, Daniel already halfway to the door before Elena could process what was happening. They took the stairs two at a time, bursting into Mia's room to find her sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, her small body shaking. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Daniel dropped to his knees beside the bed, hands hovering like he wasn't sure where to touch. "I had a bad dream," Mia sobbed. "About Mom. She was calling me, but I couldn't find her, and then she was gone, and I was all alone." "You're not alone," Daniel said, pulling her into his arms. "I'm right here. I'm always right here." But Mia kept crying, her hands fisting in Daniel's shirt, and Elena saw the helplessness flash across his face, the same look he'd worn that first night at the bus station, like he was watching someone drown and couldn't figure out how to pull them to shore. Elena sat on the edge of the bed. "Mia, honey, can I tell you something?" Mia looked up, her face blotchy and wet. "When I have scary dreams," Elena said quietly, "I like to think about 3 good things that happened that day. Real things. Things that can't disappear like dreams do." "Want to try it with me?" Mia hiccuped, then nodded. "Okay. What's one good thing from today?" Mia was quiet for a moment, thinking. "We had pizza for lunch at school." "That's a good one. What else?" "Noah let me use his favorite crayon." "See? That's 2. One more." Mia glanced at Elena, then at her dad. "You and Daddy held hands on the porch." Daniel's breath caught. Elena felt her cheeks flush, but she kept her voice steady. "That's 3 good things, and they're all real. They all really happened. So even if the bad dream felt scary, these things are true. You can hold on to them." Mia's crying had slowed to sniffles. She wiped her nose on her sleeve. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "Of course," Elena said. Daniel squeezed Elena's shoulder as he stood. "I'll be right across the hall if you need me, Princess." "I know, Daddy." Elena lay down next to Mia, on top of the covers and felt the little girl curl into her side. She stroked Mia's hair, soft and slightly tangled, until the breathing evened out and deepened. When she tried to slip away, Mia's hand tightened on her arm. "Don't go," Mia mumbled, half asleep. So Elena stayed. She woke hours later, stiff and cold. Mia sprawled across her like a starfish. The room was dark, except for the nightlight shaped like a crescent moon. Elena carefully extracted herself and padded downstairs for water. Daniel was in the kitchen, sitting in the dark with a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking. "Hey," Elena said softly. He looked up. "Hey. Sorry. Did we wake you?" "No. Well, yes, but it's fine." She poured herself water and leaned against the counter. "Is this normal? The nightmares?" "Used to be worse," Daniel said. "Right after Sarah died, Mia had them every night. Lucas, too. Noah was too young to really understand, but he'd wake up screaming anyway, like he could feel something was wrong." He rubbed his face. "They got better for a while, but sometimes something triggers it. A smell, a song on the radio, I don't know. And then we're back there again." "I'm sorry." "Me too." Daniel finally took a sip of his whiskey. "You were good with her. The 3 things. That was smart." "My mom used to do it with me," Elena said, "when I was little and couldn't sleep. I'd forgotten about it until tonight." They were quiet for a moment. Then Daniel said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Earlier, on the porch, when I said I didn't know what would happen if you left." He stopped, choosing his words carefully. "Did I overstep?" Elena's chest tightened. "No." "Because if this is weird, or if you want to keep things professional, or if I'm making you uncomfortable, Daniel," she set down her water glass, "you're not making me uncomfortable." "Okay?" He looked relieved. "Good, because I keep worrying that I'm taking advantage of you being here, asking for too much, expecting—" "You're not," Elena said firmly. "I'm here because I want to be, not because I owe you, not because I don't have anywhere else to go anymore, because I want to be." The words surprised her as much as they seemed to surprise him. Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, small and genuine. "Good," he said again. "Because I really like having you here." Elena's heart kicked against her ribs. "I really like being here." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was something else. Something that made Elena's skin feel too warm and her hands too restless. "I should get some sleep," she said finally. "Yeah, me too." Daniel stood, then hesitated. "Elena?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for staying with Mia. For all of it." "You don't have to keep thanking me." "I know," Daniel said, "but I'm going to anyway." Elena climbed the stairs feeling like something fundamental had changed, though she couldn't have said exactly what. The next morning brought chaos of a different kind. Lucas's volcano project was due, and somehow, despite weeks of preparation, he'd forgotten the baking soda. "How do you forget the baking soda?" Daniel asked, frantically searching the pantry. "That's literally the entire point of the volcano." "I don't know," Lucas said, close to tears. "I had it on the list, but then I thought we had some. But we don't, and now the store doesn't open for another hour, and I have to be at school in 45 minutes. Okay, let me think." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, which only made it stick up in odd directions. "I'll go," Elena said. They both turned to look at her. "There's a convenience store 3 blocks away," Elena said. "They open at 6. I can run over, grab baking soda, and be back in 15 minutes. "Are you sure?" Daniel asked. "Positive. Lucas, do you need anything else?" Lucas checked his list with shaking hands. "Food coloring. Red, if they have it." "Got it. I'll be right back." Elena grabbed her jacket and keys and jogged the 3 blocks, her breath misting in the cold morning air. The convenience store was dingy and overpriced, but they had baking soda and a dusty bottle of red food coloring that looked like it had been there since 1987. When she got back, Lucas nearly tackled her with a hug. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," he said, his words running together. "You're welcome," Elena said, laughing. "Now go finish that volcano before your dad has a heart attack." Daniel was making breakfast with the frantic energy of a man barely keeping control. Eggs were burning in one pan while he tried to butter toast with the other hand. "I've got this," Elena said, taking the spatula from him. "Go help Lucas." You're a saint, Daniel said. I'm really not. But she couldn't help smiling as she salvaged the eggs and started fresh ones. By the time the kids came down for breakfast, everything was ready. Plates set, orange juice poured, Lucas's volcano safely packed in a box with a towel wrapped around it for protection. Everybody eat fast, Daniel said, checking his watch. We've got 10 minutes. They made it to school with 3 minutes to spare. Lucas ran inside clutching his volcano like it was made of glass, and Mia and Noah piled out after him with their backpacks. Elena and Daniel sat in the truck, the engine still running, both of them slightly breathless. That was intense, Elena said. That's every morning, Daniel said. Then he started laughing, the kind of exhausted, slightly hysterical laughter that came from surviving something ridiculous. Elena found herself laughing too, and for a moment everything felt absurdly, perfectly okay. I couldn't do this without you, Daniel said when they'd both calmed down. I mean it. I was drowning before you showed up. You were fine, Elena said. I was surviving, Daniel corrected. There's a difference. Elena didn't know what to say to that, so she just reached over and squeezed his hand, quick and brief, before pulling away. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm that felt less like routine and more like belonging. Elena started taking online classes, business administration, something she'd always wanted to study, but Marcus had dismissed as pointless. Daniel helped her set up a laptop at the kitchen table and told her to use it whenever she needed. You sure? Elena asked. I don't want to mess with your work stuff. It's an old one, Daniel said. I barely use it. It's yours. The kids adjusted to having Elena around like she'd always been there. Mia started asking her to do her hair in the mornings, braids that Elena had to YouTube how to do properly. Noah insisted on showing her every single drawing he made, which was approximately 700 per day. Lucas was quieter, but he'd started sitting next to her when she worked on her classwork, doing his own homework, asking her questions about fractions and grammar. And Daniel was different too. He smiled more, joked around, stopped looking like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders alone. One Saturday, Daniel announced they were going to the park. All of us? Lucas asked, surprised. All of us, Daniel confirmed. We're playing hooky from chores. Elena's been here for over a month and we haven't done anything fun as a family. The word family made Elena's stomach flip. But she grabbed her jacket and piled into the truck with everyone else. The park was crowded with other families taking advantage of the first warm day in weeks. Kids shrieked on the playground, parents clustered on benches with coffee, dogs chased tennis balls across the grass. Mia and Noah ran straight for the swings. Lucas headed toward the basketball court where some older kids were shooting hoops. Go easy on the other team, Daniel called after him. Lucas waved without looking back. Daniel and Elena sat on a bench within view of all three kids, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to let them be independent. This is nice, Elena said. Yeah. Daniel stretched his legs out, tilting his face toward the sun. We should do this more often. I forget that they're kids sometimes, that they need this. You're doing fine, Elena said. Stop beating yourself up. I'm serious, Daniel said. Before you showed up, I was running on empty. Everything was about survival. Get them fed, get them to school, keep the lights on, repeat. I forgot they needed more than that. I forgot I needed more than that. Elena watched Mia swing higher and higher, her laughter carrying across the playground. What did you do before? For fun, I mean. Before everything got hard. Daniel thought about it. Sarah and I used to take the kids camping. Nothing fancy, just a tent and a cooler and a lot of bug spray. We'd make s'mores and tell stories and let them stay up way too late. His voice softened. She was good at that, making normal things feel like adventures. She sounds amazing. She was. Daniel was quiet for a moment. But she's gone. And I'm still here. And I have to figure out how to be enough for them on my own. You're not on your own, Elena said. Daniel looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. No, I guess I'm not. The moment stretched, and Elena felt that strange pull again, the same one from the porch, from the kitchen late at night, from a dozen small moments she hadn't let herself think about too carefully. Then Noah ran over, demanding Daniel push him on the merry-go-round, and the moment broke. But it didn't disappear. That night, after the kids were in bed, Daniel knocked on the guest room door. Elena opened it, surprised. Everything okay? Yeah, Can we talk for a minute? Of course. They went downstairs and ended up in their usual spots. Daniel on the couch, Elena in the armchair. The house was quiet, the kind of stillness that only came after children finally surrendered to sleep. I got offered something at work, Daniel said. A promotion. It's a good opportunity. Better pay, better hours eventually, but there's a catch. Elena's stomach dropped. What kind of catch? I'd have to relocate. For 6 months, maybe longer, to help open a new branch in Denver. He ran his hand through his hair. It's temporary, but it's also the kind of thing that could set us up long term. Better benefits, college funds for the kids, all of that. That's amazing, Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. You should take it. It means leaving, Daniel said, packing up the kids, pulling them out of school, moving them away from everything they know. But you'd come back? That's the plan. But plans change. He looked at her. And there's another problem. What? You. Elena's breath caught. Me? I don't want to leave you behind, Daniel said quietly. And I know that's selfish. I know you have your own life to figure out, your own plans. But the idea of doing this without you, of the kids asking where you went, he stopped. I can't ask you to come with us. That's insane. We've known each other for barely 2 months, but I also can't imagine doing this without you. Elena's mind was racing. Denver. 6 months. Leaving behind the tiny foundation she'd started to build here. Her online classes, the part-time job she'd just gotten at the local library, the fragile sense of stability she'd fought so hard for. But also, staying here without them. Going back to an empty apartment, to silence, to the crushing weight of being alone again. When do you have to decide? She asked. 2 weeks. Okay. Elena took a breath. Can I think about it? Of course. Daniel looked miserable. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have dumped this on you like this. No, I'm glad you told me. She meant it, even though her heart was hammering. We'll figure it out. But as she lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, Elena had no idea how. The next 2 weeks were strange. Everyone knew something was coming, even if the kids didn't know exactly what. Lucas got quieter. Mia clung to Elena more than usual. Noah started having accidents again, something he hadn't done in months. Daniel was stressed, snapping at small things and then apologizing. Elena tried to help, tried to keep things normal, but normal was fracturing around them. She still hadn't decided. Part of her wanted to run, to thank Daniel for everything and slip away before things got messier, before she got more attached, before leaving became impossible. But another part, the part that had grown stronger over the past 2 months, refused to let go. One evening, Elena took a walk to clear her head. She ended up at the bus station where Daniel had found her. The bench was still there, cold metal under a flickering light. She sat down and thought about that night, how broken she'd felt, how certain she was that her life was over, that she'd used up all her chances. And then Daniel had stopped. Not because he had to. Not because he wanted something from her, just because it was the right thing to do. Elena pulled out her phone and called the one person she'd been avoiding. Her sister answered on the 3rd ring. Elena? Hey, Rachel. Oh my God, where have you been? I've been calling for weeks. I know, I'm sorry. I needed time. Rachel was quiet, then softer. Are you okay? I don't know, Elena admitted. I left Marcus. Good, I never liked that asshole. Elena laughed, surprised. You could have mentioned that earlier. I tried. You didn't want to hear it. Rachel sighed. Where are you? Do you need help? It's complicated. Elena took a breath. I'm living with someone, a man. He has 3 kids. It's temporary, but also maybe not. And he just got offered a job in Denver, and he asked me to come with them, and I don't know what to do. The silence on the other end stretched so long, Elena thought the call had dropped. Rachel? Sorry, just processing. Rachel cleared her throat. Okay. Do you love him? What? No, it's not like that. Are you sure? Elena opened her mouth to say yes, then closed it. I don't know. Do you want it to be like that? I don't know, Elena said again, quieter. Okay, different question. Are you happy? That one was easier. Yes. Then go, Rachel said simply. Go to Denver. Take the risk. Stop waiting for permission to want things. What if it falls apart? Then it falls apart, and you figure out what's next. But Elena, you've spent the last 8 years making yourself smaller for a man who didn't deserve you. Don't do that again. Don't walk away from something good because you're scared. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't listening. They talked for another hour about Marcus, about the divorce Elena needed to file, about the kids and Daniel, and the terrifying possibility of starting over in a new city. When Elena hung up, she knew what she had to do. She found Daniel in the garage pretending to organize tools, but really just moving things from one pile to another. Hey, she said. He looked up. Hey, I'll come with you, Elena said. To Denver, if you still want me to. Daniel stared at her. Are you sure? No, Elena said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. Daniel crossed the garage in 3 steps and pulled her into a hug so tight she could barely breathe. Thank you, he said into her hair. Thank you. Elena hugged him back, her heart racing. We'll figure it out, together. When they told the kids, the reactions were mixed. Lucas looked relieved. Mia burst into tears, happy ones, she insisted, and refused to let go of Elena for 20 minutes. Noah just asked if they could bring his blocks. All of them, Daniel promised. The next week was a blur of packing and logistics and phone calls. Elena withdrew from her online classes. She'd re-enroll once they were settled. She quit her library job. She called Rachel again just to hear her sister say she was proud of her. And through it all, she and Daniel kept circling each other, close but not quite touching, saying things without saying them, pretending this was just practical when it was becoming anything but. The night before they left, Elena couldn't sleep. She wandered downstairs and found Daniel on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the empty street. Can't sleep either? She asked. Too much to think about. He shifted over, making room. Come sit. Elena sat, and he draped half the blanket over her shoulders. They were close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell his soap and coffee, and something uniquely him. Are we insane? Daniel asked quietly. Doing this? Probably. Second thoughts? About 100 of them, Elena admitted. But I'm still going. Daniel looked at her, and in the dim porch light, his expression was impossibly soft. I'm really glad you're coming with us. Me too. Elena, he stopped, like he was trying to figure out how to say something difficult. I need to tell you something. Her heart kicked. Okay. This isn't just about the kids, or needing help, or any of that. He took a breath. I like you. A lot. More than I probably should, given everything. And I know this is terrible timing, and I know you might not feel the same way, but I couldn't leave without telling you. I couldn't. Elena kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't thought through. She just leaned in and pressed her lips to his, cutting off his rambling, answering the question he'd been trying to ask. Daniel froze for half a second. Then he kissed her back, his hand coming up to cup her face, gentle and sure. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I feel the same way, Elena whispered. I have for a while. I just didn't know how to say it. Daniel laughed, the sound shaky with relief. We're really doing this. We're really doing this. The kids can handle it, Elena said. Eventually. We'll take it slow, figure it out as we go. Slow, Daniel repeated, then kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, like he was trying to memorize the feel of her. When they finally went inside, Elena's lips were swollen and her heart was hammering, and she felt more terrified and more certain than she'd ever been in her life. Tomorrow they'd leave. Tomorrow, everything would change again. But tonight, sitting on the porch with Daniel's hand in hers, Elena let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The moving truck arrived at dawn. Boxes and furniture disappeared into its cavernous interior while the kids ran around, alternating between excitement and meltdowns. Mia cried when they loaded her bed. Noah insisted on carrying his favorite stuffed elephant himself, refusing to let it go in a box. Lucas stood in his empty room for a long time, saying goodbye to something only he could see. Elena felt it too, the weight of leaving, but she also felt something else, something like hope. As they pulled away from the house, Daniel reached over and took her hand. In the back seat, Mia noticed. Daddy's holding Elena's hand again. Yep, Lucas said, not looking up from his book. Does that mean they're boyfriend and girlfriend now? Mia asked. Mia, stop being nosy, Lucas said. I'm not nosy. I'm observant. Daniel caught Elena's eye, fighting a smile. Elena bit her lip, trying not to laugh. We'll talk about it later, Daniel said. That means yes, Mia whispered loudly to Noah. Noah just hugged his elephant and didn't respond. The drive to Denver took 2 days. They stopped at a motel halfway, got fast food that made everyone feel slightly sick, and played road trip games that devolved into arguments about whether a water tower counted as a landmark. By the time they pulled into Denver, everyone was exhausted and cranky. The new house was smaller than the old one, in a neighborhood that felt too clean and unfamiliar. The furniture looked wrong in different rooms. Everything smelled like paint and strangers. That first night, Mia had another nightmare. Then Lucas. Then Noah, even though he'd been fine for months. Elena and Daniel took turns comforting them, meeting in the hallway at 3 a.m, both of them exhausted and frazzled. This was a mistake, Daniel said, his voice hollow. I uprooted them for a job. What kind of father does that? The kind who's trying to give them a better future, Elena said firmly. And they're going to be okay. It's just going to take time. What if they're not? Then we'll figure it out, Elena said. That's what we do. Daniel pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. I don't know what I'd do without you. Good thing you don't have to find out. The weeks that followed were hard. The kids struggled with new schools, new routines, new everything. Lucas got into a fight with a kid who made fun of his accent. Mia refused to talk to anyone and spent recess hiding in the library. Noah regressed, clinging to Elena and crying whenever she left his sight. And Daniel's new job was consuming him. Long hours, steep learning curve, pressure to prove himself. He came home exhausted, barely able to stay awake through dinner. Elena held it together. She got the kids to school, helped with homework, made dinners that half the time went uneaten, unpacked boxes, tried to make the house feel like home. But she was tired too. Tired of being strong. Tired of pretending this wasn't harder than she'd expected. One night, after a particularly brutal day, Noah had a meltdown at school. Mia refused to eat anything. Lucas wouldn't talk about why he had detention. Elena locked herself in the bathroom and cried. She cried for the life she'd left behind, messy as it was. She cried for these kids who'd been through too much already. She cried because she loved Daniel, and she was terrified that love wouldn't be enough. When she finally emerged, red-eyed and shaky, Daniel was waiting in the hallway. The kids are asleep, he said quietly. Come here. He led her to their room they'd been sharing since the second week in Denver, a progression that felt natural even if they hadn't discussed it, and just held her. I'm sorry, Daniel said. I'm asking too much of you. You're not. I am. I'm barely here. You're doing everything, and I know this isn't what you signed up for. Daniel, Elena pulled back to look at him. I signed up for this, all of it, the hard parts too. So stop apologizing and just let me be here. I love you, Daniel said, the words tumbling out like he couldn't hold them back anymore. I'm in love with you, and I know it's soon, and I know everything's a mess right now, but I needed you to know. Elena's breath caught. I love you too. They kissed, desperate and clinging, and for a few minutes the world narrowed to just the two of them. No struggling kids, no overwhelming job, no fear of failing. Just them. That night, wrapped in each other, Elena let herself believe they'd make it through. And slowly, impossibly, things started to get better. Lucas made a friend, a quiet kid who also liked science and didn't care about accents. Mia's teacher called to say she'd started participating in class again. Noah's meltdowns became less frequent, then rare. Daniel's schedule evened out. He started coming home at reasonable hours, started being present again. And Elena started to breathe. She re-enrolled in her online classes, started looking for part-time work, started thinking about a future that was hers, not just something she was borrowing from someone else. 3 months after they arrived in Denver, Daniel came home early with a smile Elena hadn't seen in weeks. "I have news," he said. The kids looked up from their homework. Elena paused mid-stir at the stove. "Good news or bad news?" Lucas asked cautiously. "Good news. Really good news." Daniel set down his briefcase. "The company's happy with how things are going, which means the temporary assignment might not be so temporary. They want to make this permanent. Better pay, better benefits, the whole package." "Does that mean we're staying?" Mia asked. "If we want to," Daniel said. "It's up to us." He looked at Elena when he said it. Us. The kids erupted into discussion, Lucas weighing pros and cons, Mia declaring Denver officially better than home, Noah just wanting to know if they could get a dog now. But Elena just looked at Daniel, this man who'd stopped for her when he had every reason to keep driving, who'd given her a place when she had nowhere to go, who'd let her belong when she thought she never would again. "What do you think?" Daniel asked her quietly. Elena thought about it. About this house that was starting to feel like home. About these kids who called her by name and asked her opinion and trusted her with their scraped knees and hurt feelings. About this life they'd built together, messy and imperfect, and more than she'd ever thought she deserved. "I think we stay," Elena said. Daniel's smile could have lit up the whole room. That night, after the kids were asleep, they sat in the backyard, smaller than the old one, but theirs, and talked about the future. About Lucas's science fair next month, about enrolling Mia in art classes, about finding Noah a preschool he'd actually like, about them. "I want to do this right," Daniel said. "Us. I don't want to rush things or mess this up." "We're already doing it right," Elena said. "There's no perfect timeline. We're just figuring it out as we go." "I want to marry you," Daniel blurted out. Then his eyes went wide. "Sorry, that's not... I don't mean right now. I just meant eventually. Someday. If you..." Elena kissed him, cutting off another ramble. "Someday," she agreed. "When we're ready. When the kids are ready." "Someday," Daniel repeated and pulled her close. Elena rested her head on his shoulder, watching the stars appear one by one in the Denver sky, and thought about how strange life was. How you could lose everything and find everything in the span of a few months. How the worst night of your life could lead to the best decision you ever made. She wasn't the same person who'd sat shivering at that bus station. That Elena had been broken, convinced she was worthless, certain her story was over. This Elena knew better. This Elena had found her worth in showing up every day, in loving these kids fiercely, in letting herself be loved in return. And this Elena, tired, imperfect, still figuring things out, was finally home. The decision to stay in Denver should have felt final, like closing a chapter. Instead, it opened a dozen new ones, each more complicated than the last. 2 weeks after they'd committed to making Denver permanent, Elena got a call from a lawyer back home. Marcus was contesting the divorce, not because he wanted her back, he'd made that crystal clear, but because he wanted to make sure she left the marriage with as little as possible. "He's claiming you abandoned the marriage," the lawyer said, her voice crisp and professional. "Says you left without warning, refused counseling, and that you're now cohabitating with another man. He wants you to forfeit any claim to marital assets." Elena sat in the car outside the grocery store, groceries melting in the back seat, and felt the ground shift under her. "Can he do that?" she asked. "He can try. Whether he'll succeed is another matter, but Elena, this is going to get ugly. He's angry, and he's using the legal system to punish you. You need to be prepared for that." When Elena got home, Daniel took one look at her face and sent the kids to play in the backyard. "What happened?" she told him, watched his expression darken with every word. "That bastard," Daniel said. "He throws you out, cheats on you, and now he wants to destroy you financially?" "He's scared I'll take half of everything," Elena said. "The house, the savings, his precious car collection, so he's going on the offensive." "Do you want half?" Elena thought about it. "I want what's fair. I put 8 years into that marriage. I gave up jobs for him, moved for him, made his life easier while mine got smaller. So yeah, I want something, but mostly I just want it to be over." Daniel pulled her close. "We'll get you a good lawyer, a better one than whatever hack Marcus hired, and we'll fight this." "We?" Elena looked up at him. "Daniel, this is my mess. You don't have to..." We, Daniel said firmly. You're not doing this alone. But hiring a lawyer meant money they didn't have. Daniel's new salary was better, but they were still catching up from the move, still paying off debt from when he was raising 3 kids alone. Elena's part-time job at a local bookstore barely covered gas. The lawyer they could afford was overworked and distracted. The lawyer Marcus hired was a shark who'd made a career out of bleeding people dry in divorces. This isn't fair, Elena said one night, staring at the mounting legal bills. No, Daniel agreed. It's not. They were sitting at the kitchen table long after the kids had gone to bed, surrounded by paperwork and highlighters and the slow-building dread of a fight they might not win. I should have stayed, Elena said. I should have just signed whatever he wanted and walked away. And let him win? Daniel shook his head. No, you deserve better than that. Maybe I don't, Elena said quietly. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe I am. Don't! Daniel's voice was sharp enough to make her flinch. Don't finish that sentence. Marcus was a coward who blamed you for his own failings. You know that. Knowing it and believing it are different things. Daniel reached across the table and took her hands. Then believe this. You are not worthless. You are not a failure. And you are not fighting this battle alone. Got it? Elena's throat tightened. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Good, Daniel said. Now let's figure out how to bury this asshole. They worked until 2 a.m. building a case, documenting everything Marcus had said and done during the marriage, gathering evidence of his affair, his financial manipulation, his emotional abuse disguised as concern. It was exhausting, but it was also clarifying. Elena had spent so long trying to be what Marcus needed that she'd forgotten she had any needs at all. Now, sitting across from Daniel, watching him fight for her with the same fierce protectiveness he showed his kids, she realized something. She was allowed to want things, allowed to fight for herself, allowed to take up space. The realization didn't fix everything, but it helped. At school, things were shifting too. Lucas's new friend, a kid named Ben, turned out to have a mom who was sharp and funny and immediately suspicious of Elena. So, you're the girlfriend, the woman, Christine, asked when she picked Ben up one afternoon. Yes, Elena said, stumbling over the label. Were they calling it that now? She and Daniel had been careful around the kids, keeping things low-key, but apparently subtlety wasn't their strong suit. How long have you two been together? A few months, Elena said. It's still pretty new. Christine studied her with the assessing gaze of someone who'd seen too many people come and go from her son's life. Ben talks about Lucas constantly, says he's the smartest kid in class, also says Lucas's dad is really tired all the time and you make good sandwiches. Elena didn't know whether to laugh or apologize. I do my best. Look, Christine said, her tone softening slightly. I don't know your story, and it's none of my business. But Ben's been through a lot. His dad and I split when he was 4, and there were some rough years with people rotating in and out. So if you're not serious about this, if you're just passing through, maybe keep some distance from the kids. They get attached fast. The words hit harder than they should have. I'm not passing through. You sure about that? Elena met Christine's eyes. I'm sure. Christine nodded slowly. Okay then, just making sure we're on the same page. When Elena told Daniel about the conversation later, he winced. Christine's protective. Ben's dad was a mess. Brought random girlfriends around, let Ben get attached, then they'd disappear. She's got reason to be wary. She thinks I'm going to bail, Elena said. Are you? No. The answer came without hesitation. But what if she's right to worry? What if I screw this up? What if the kids get hurt because I don't know what I'm doing? Elena. Daniel caught her face in his hands. You're not going to screw this up. You're already doing it. You've been doing it since the day you walked into our lives. That's different. That was survival. This is, she gestured helplessly. This is choosing to stay, choosing to be part of something. What if I'm not good enough at it? You're already good enough, Daniel said. You just have to believe it. But believing it was harder than he made it sound. Mia's school had a mother-daughter art night, and when the flyer came home, Mia handed it to Elena without a word, just looked at her with those big, hopeful eyes. Elena's stomach dropped. Mia, honey, this says mother-daughter. Maybe you should ask. I'm asking you, Mia said. Please? Elena looked at Daniel, who just shrugged helplessly. It's up to you. So Elena went. The school gym was decorated with streamers and tables covered in craft supplies. Everywhere Elena looked, there were mothers and daughters laughing together. Mothers who'd been there from the beginning, mothers who knew exactly what they were doing. Elena felt like a fraud. What do you want to make? She asked Mia. A picture frame, Mia said, for the photo of me and Mom, the one Dad keeps in his room. Elena's chest tightened. That sounds perfect. They worked together, gluing sequins and painting wooden edges. Mia chattered about her day, about Ben's weird obsession with dinosaurs, about how Noah had eaten a crayon that morning and Daniel had freaked out even though the box said non-toxic. Normal things. Easy things. Then one of the other mothers, a woman with perfect hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, leaned over. I don't think we've met. I'm Vanessa, Kelsey's mom. Elena, I'm here with Mia. Vanessa's smile sharpened. Oh, you're the new stepmom. I've heard about you. We're not. It's complicated, Elena stammered. I'm sure it is. Vanessa's tone suggested she thought it was anything but complicated. Must be hard stepping into a ready-made family, especially with a woman like Sarah to live up to. Elena felt like she'd been slapped. I'm not trying to replace anyone. Of course not, Vanessa said sweetly. But the kids must make comparisons. Kids always do. Mia, who'd been listening, set down her paintbrush. Elena's not like my mom. She's Elena. And she's nice to me, and she makes Dad smile again, and I like her. So you should stop being mean. Vanessa's perfect smile faltered. I wasn't being mean, sweetie. I was just... You were, Mia said flatly. Then she turned to Elena. Can we go work on the other side of the room? It's less crowded there. Elena wanted to hug her. Yeah, let's do that. As they gathered their supplies, Elena caught Vanessa's expression, half embarrassed, half offended, and felt a fierce rush of pride in this little girl who'd just offended her. Later, when they showed Daniel the finished frame, Mia announced, Elena's my friend, and some lady was mean to her, but I told her to stop. Daniel raised his eyebrows. Did you now? She said Elena had to be like Mom, Mia said. But that's stupid. Elena's Elena. Daniel met Elena's eyes over Mia's head, his expression soft. Yes, she is. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Vanessa's words, about Sarah, about trying to fit into a space that wasn't empty, just differently shaped. She got up and found the photo Mia had mentioned. Sarah and the kids, all of them laughing, Sarah beautiful and alive and absolutely nothing like Elena. Can't sleep? Elena jumped. Daniel stood in the doorway, hair rumpled, wearing the ratty t-shirt he always slept in. Sorry, Elena said. I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. He came to stand beside her, looking at the photo. That was a good day. We'd gone to the zoo. Noah threw up on the carousel, and Lucas got chased by a peacock, and Sarah laughed so hard she cried. She was beautiful, Elena said. Yeah. Daniel was quiet for a moment. She was also stubborn and terrible at directions and burned everything she cooked. And she hated mornings, and she sang off key, and she once started a fight with a parking meter. Despite herself, Elena smiled. Really? Really? She wasn't perfect. Nobody is. He looked at Elena. But she was perfect for us. For that version of us. The family we were then. And now? Elena asked, her voice small. Now we're different, Daniel said. The kids are different. I'm different. And that's okay. Sarah was part of our story, but she's not the ending. We get to keep writing it. With me. If you want to be, Daniel said. But not because you're trying to fill Sarah's shoes, because you're you, and we need you exactly as you are. Elena turned to face him fully. What if I'm not enough? You are, Daniel said. You already are. You just have to stop waiting for someone to give you permission to believe it. He kissed her then, soft and sure, and Elena felt some of the tension she'd been carrying start to loosen. Come back to bed, Daniel said. You're exhausted. In a minute. But when she climbed back into bed beside him, she felt lighter than she had in days. The legal battle with Marcus dragged on. Depositions, interrogatories, requests for documentation that forced Elena to relive every painful moment of her marriage. Marcus's lawyer painted her as unstable. A woman who abandoned her husband on a whim, who immediately moved in with another man who clearly wasn't fit to receive any portion of the marital assets. Elena's lawyer fought back, but it was an uphill battle. The system wasn't designed for people like Elena, people with limited resources, messy stories, lives that didn't fit into neat legal boxes. "He's going to win, isn't he?" Elena said after one particularly brutal deposition. "I don't know," her lawyer admitted, "but we're not giving up." At home, the stress bled into everything. Elena snapped at the kids over small things, avoided Daniel because she didn't want to burden him with her anxiety, stopped sleeping properly, stopped eating properly, stopped taking care of herself. It was Lucas who finally called her out. He found her sitting in the backyard one afternoon, staring at nothing, and sat down beside her without asking. "You're not okay," he said. "I'm fine," Elena lied. "You're not. You're like Dad was after Mom died. You're here, but you're not really here." Elena looked at him, surprised. "Lucas?" "I know about the divorce stuff," Lucas said. "I heard you and Dad talking. Your old husband's being a jerk, and it's making you sad." "It's more complicated than that." "Adults always say that." Lucas picked at the grass. "But it's not, really. He's being mean because he can. And you're letting him make you feel bad because you think you deserve it, but you don't." "How did you get so smart?" Elena asked, her voice thick. "I read a lot," Lucas said, then quieter. "And I know what it's like when someone you love makes you feel like you're not good enough. Mom used to..." He stopped, started again. "Mom loved us. But sometimes she got sad, and when she was sad, she'd say things about how she wasn't a good mom, how she was failing us, how we'd be better off without her. And we'd tell her that wasn't true, but I don't think she believed us." Elena's heart clenched. "Lucas, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. I don't want you to be like that. I don't want you to think you're not good enough when you are. You make Dad happy. You make all of us happy. So stop letting some jerk make you forget that." Elena pulled him into a hug, this kid who was too young to be so wise and too old to be so hurt. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're welcome," Lucas said. "Now can we go inside? It's getting cold." That night, Elena told Daniel what Lucas had said, watched the pain flicker across his face. "Sarah struggled," Daniel said quietly, "with depression, with anxiety, with feeling like she wasn't measuring up. I tried to help, but I didn't always know how. And then she was gone, and I never got to tell her." His voice broke. "I never got to tell her she was enough. That she was always enough." "The kids know that," Elena said. "They loved her. They still love her." "I know, but Lucas shouldn't have had to carry that. He was 8. He should have been worrying about homework and video games, not whether his mom was okay. Kids are tougher than we think," Elena said, "and smarter. He knew what I needed to hear today. Maybe because Sarah taught him what it sounds like when someone's drowning." Daniel pulled her close. "I don't want you to drown." "I'm not," Elena said. "I'm just treading water. But I'll get there." "We'll get you there," Daniel corrected. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Christine, Ben's mom, turned out to be a paralegal. When she heard about Elena's situation, through Lucas, through Ben, through the strange telephone game that was elementary school friendships, she showed up at their door with a box of files. "I did some digging," Christine said. "Your ex-husband's lawyer likes to play dirty, but he's also sloppy. There are 3 procedural errors in the filings, and if your lawyer knows how to exploit them, you might have leverage." Elena stared at her. "Why would you help me?" "Because Vanessa from Art Night is a terrible person, and she's friends with your ex's new girlfriend," Christine said bluntly. "And because Lucas is a good kid, and Ben's happy for the first time in 2 years, and I don't want to see your family implode because some asshole can't handle his ego being bruised." Elena didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you win." The procedural errors were enough to shift the balance. Elena's lawyer pounced, filed motions, forced Marcus's team to scramble. It wasn't a knockout blow, but it evened the playing field. And then Marcus made a mistake. During his deposition, he got cocky, started bragging about his new relationship, about how Simone was everything Elena wasn't, younger, more successful, capable of giving him children. Elena's lawyer let him talk. Let him dig his own grave with his arrogance. Then she asked one simple question. And when did this relationship with Ms. Simone begin? Marcus hesitated. After Elena left. Are you sure about that? The silence stretched. Marcus's lawyer jumped in, tried to redirect, but it was too late. The timeline didn't add up. The affair had started months before Elena left, and now it was on record. 2 weeks later, Marcus's lawyer called with a settlement offer. Not generous, but fair. Enough for Elena to walk away with her dignity and a foundation to rebuild on. Take it, her lawyer advised. You could push for more, but the fight would cost you time and money you don't have. This is a win. Elena signed the papers in the lawyer's office, her hand shaking only slightly. When she walked out, she called Daniel. It's done, she said. How do you feel? Elena thought about it, about Marcus, about 8 years of trying to be smaller, quieter, less, about walking away with just enough to start over. Free, she said. I feel free. That night, Daniel took her out to dinner, just the two of them, the kids with a babysitter Christine had recommended. They went to a small Italian place that had checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles and servers who sang opera between courses. It was ridiculous. It was perfect. To freedom, Daniel said, raising his glass. To new beginnings, Elena countered. They clinked glasses, and Elena felt something settle in her chest. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. But the possibility of it. The foundation of it. I want to ask you something, Daniel said. Elena's heart kicked. Okay. Not now. Not tonight. But soon. He reached across the table and took her hand. I want to do this right. I want the kids to be ready. I want you to be sure. But I need you to know I'm not going anywhere. This isn't temporary. You're not temporary. Neither are you, Elena said. Good. Daniel smiled, and it was the most genuine, unguarded expression she'd ever seen on his face. Because I'm planning on keeping you around for a very long time. They talked for hours about the kids, about work, about the settlement money, and what Elena might do with it. She was thinking about going back to school full-time, getting a degree in business or counseling or something that felt like hers. You should, Daniel said. You'd be amazing at whatever you chose. You really think so? I know so. When they got home, the babysitter reported that Noah had only cried once, Mia had gone to bed without arguing, and Lucas had read quietly the entire time. They're good kids, the babysitter said. You're lucky. We are, Elena agreed. After the sitter left, Elena checked on each of them, tucking blankets, moving stuffed animals, just watching them sleep. These kids who'd somehow become hers without her quite realizing when it happened. In Lucas's room, she found a drawing on his desk. The whole family, Daniel, Elena, Lucas, Mia, and Noah, standing in front of a house with a badly proportioned dog in the yard. At the bottom, in Lucas's careful handwriting, my family. Elena was in it. She took the drawing downstairs where Daniel was making tea. Look what I found, she said, showing him. Daniel studied it, his expression softening. He drew you. He drew all of us. Yeah, Daniel said quietly. He did. They stood there in the kitchen, the drawing between them, and Elena felt the last piece of doubt crack and fall away. She belonged here, with these people, in this life. Not because she was perfect, not because she'd earned it through suffering, not because she was replacing anyone or filling a gap, but because she'd chosen them and they'd chosen her back, and that was enough. I love you, Elena said. I love you too, Daniel said. Then he kissed her, soft and lingering, and Elena let herself sink into the certainty of it. Whatever came next, whatever challenges, whatever struggles, whatever messy, imperfect moments, they'd face it together. And for the first time in her entire life, that didn't scare her. It felt like coming home. The feeling didn't last. 3 days after Elena found Lucas's drawing, Daniel came home from work with news that made her stomach drop. There's a problem with the Denver branch, he said, loosening his tie with jerky movements. The regional manager they brought in is tanking everything. Projects are behind schedule, clients are threatening to pull contracts, and corporate's in full panic mode. Elena set down the dish she was washing. What does that mean for you? It means they want me to fix it. Daniel slumped into a chair. They're asking me to take over as interim regional manager. Double the responsibility, longer hours, travel to satellite offices twice a month. It's a huge opportunity, but it's also a lot, Elena finished. Yeah, he rubbed his face. And I just got to the point where I could actually be home for dinner, where I could help Lucas with his science project and read to Noah before bed. Now they're asking me to... He stopped. I don't know if I can do this. Elena crossed to him, put her hands on his shoulders. What do you want to do? I want to say no. I want to tell them to find someone else. But this is my career and we need the money, especially now with your school costs coming up. And he looked at her. What do you think I should do? It was the first time he'd asked her that, not just for her opinion, but for her input as an equal partner in this decision. I think you should take it, Elena said. Daniel blinked. Really? Really? You've worked too hard to turn down an opportunity like this, and we'll figure out the rest. We always do. Elena, this is going to be brutal. I'm going to be gone even more than before. You'll be handling the kids alone most of the time. That's not fair to you. Life isn't fair, Elena said. But we're in this together, remember? So you take the job, and I'll hold down the fort here, and we'll make it work. Daniel pulled her onto his lap, buried his face in her shoulder. I don't deserve you. Yeah, you do, Elena said. Now stop being dramatic and call your boss back. He did take the job, and Elena was right about one thing. They made it work, but she'd been wrong about how hard it would be. Daniel left the house at 6 in the morning and rarely came home before 8. Twice a month, he disappeared for 3 or 4 days to visit satellite offices in Kansas City or Albuquerque, or places Elena had never heard of. When he was home, he was exhausted and distracted, answering emails at the dinner table and taking calls during bedtime routines. Elena became the default parent for everything: doctor's appointments, school meetings, permission slips, science projects, Noah's sudden fear of thunderstorms, Mia's drama with a girl in her class who kept stealing her gel pens, Lucas's increasing moodiness as he inched toward adolescence. She was drowning again, but this time there was no one to throw her a lifeline. One morning, after getting the kids to school and coming home to a sink full of dishes and a washing machine that had decided to die mid-cycle, Elena sat on the kitchen floor and cried. She cried because she was tired, because her online classes were suffering and she was falling behind, because Daniel had missed Noah's school play and Mia's art show and Lucas's basketball game in the span of 2 weeks, because she loved them all so much and it wasn't enough. Her phone rang. Rachel. Hey, Elena said, trying to sound normal. You sound like hell. What's wrong? Elena told her. All of it. The new job, the long hours, the feeling that she was doing everything alone while Daniel got to be the hero at work. That's bullshit, Rachel said bluntly. You need to tell him. I can't. He's under so much pressure already. This job is important. So are you, Rachel said. And if you keep swallowing everything to make his life easier, you're going to end up resenting him. Trust me, I've been there. I don't resent him. Yet, Rachel said. But you will if this keeps up. Talk to him, Elena, before it's too late. But Elena didn't know how to start that conversation. Didn't know how to say she was struggling without sounding like she was complaining. Didn't know how to ask for help when Daniel was already giving everything he had. So she kept quiet, kept pushing through, kept pretending everything was fine. Until the morning Noah woke up with a fever of 103, and Daniel was in Kansas City. Elena called him from the urgent care waiting room, Noah burning up in her lap. How high is the fever? Daniel asked, his voice tight with worry. 103.4, they're checking for strep and flu. I'm scared, Daniel. He's so little and he won't stop crying, and it's going to be okay, Daniel said. Kids get fevers. It's scary, but he's going to be fine. I need you here, Elena said, her voice breaking. I know. I'm sorry. I'm stuck in meetings until 4, and then I've got a flight at 6. I'll be home by midnight. Midnight's not going to help me now. The words came out sharper than she meant them to. There was a beat of silence. Elena, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... She pressed her hand to her forehead. I'm just tired. I know. And I'm sorry I'm not there, but you've got this. You're amazing with the kids. Just keep me updated, okay? Okay. Noah didn't have strep or flu, just a viral thing that would run its course. But he was miserable and clingy, and Elena spent 2 days holding him while he cried and slept and cried some more. Daniel made it home that first night, but he was gone again the next morning for another trip he couldn't cancel. By the time Noah's fever broke, Elena was running on 3 hours of sleep and spite. Christine showed up with soup and children's Tylenol and took one look at Elena's face. "When's the last time you slept?" she asked. "I don't know, Tuesday?" "It's Thursday." "Then Tuesday." Elena rubbed her eyes. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You look like you're about to collapse." Christine set down the soup. "Where's Daniel?" "Work. He had to. It's complicated." "It's always complicated." Christine's expression was knowing. "Look, I've been where you are, trying to hold everything together while your partner gets to be the important one with the important job. It sucks, and it's not sustainable. I'm not trying to be a martyr. I'm just doing what needs to be done." "At what cost?" Christine asked gently. "Elena, you can't pour from an empty cup, and yours is bone dry." Elena wanted to argue, but she was too tired. "I don't know what else to do." "Start by talking to him. Tell him you need more support. And if he can't give it, then you figure out a different solution. But you can't keep doing this alone." After Christine left, Elena sat with Noah in the quiet house and thought about what she'd said. She'd spent so long being told she wasn't enough that she'd swung too far in the other direction, trying to be everything, trying to prove she deserved to be here. But she was burning out. And if she kept going like this, she'd end up destroying the very thing she was trying to protect. When Daniel came home Friday night, Elena was waiting. "We need to talk," she said. Daniel's face fell. "That's never good." "Sit down." He sat. Elena took a breath and said everything she'd been holding back. About feeling overwhelmed, about missing him, about being tired of doing everything alone while he got to be the hero at work. "I'm not trying to guilt you," she said. "I know this job is important, but I can't keep doing this. I need help, real help, not just you being physically present, but mentally at work." Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I didn't realize it was this bad." "How could you? You're never here." "That's not fair." "Maybe not," Elena said. "But it's true." Daniel stood, started pacing. "I'm trying to provide for this family. I'm trying to give us stability, give you the chance to go back to school, give the kids everything they need. And now you're saying that's not enough?" "I'm saying I need you," Elena said. "The kids need you, and we're losing you to this job." "What do you want me to do? Quit? Turn down the promotion? We need the money, Elena. We're finally getting ahead, and you want me to just—" "I want you to prioritize us." Elena's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. "I want you to remember that your family matters more than your career. I want you to—" She stopped, took a breath. "I want you to fight for us the way you fought for me when Marcus was trying to destroy me." The words hung between them. Daniel's face crumpled. "I am fighting for you. That's what this job is. That's what all of this is." "No," Elena said quietly. "You're fighting for a future. But we're right here, right now, and we're falling apart." "We're not falling apart, aren't we?" Elena gestured around the kitchen, at the dishes she hadn't had time to wash, at the homework she'd helped with alone, at the drawing Lucas had made that was still on the fridge. "When's the last time you did bedtime? When's the last time you knew what was happening at school? When's the last time you were actually present?" "I'm doing the best I can," Daniel said, his voice raw. "I know," Elena said. "But your best isn't working. Not for me. Not for the kids. And if something doesn't change, I don't know how much longer we can keep this up." The silence that followed was crushing. Finally, Daniel said, "Are you leaving?" "What?" "No." Elena stood, cross to him. "No. Daniel, I'm not leaving. I'm trying to save us, but I can't do it alone." "Then what do you need from me?" "I need you to talk to your boss. Ask for flexibility. Maybe don't take every trip. Maybe come home for dinner more than once a week. Maybe be here when the kids need you." She took his hands. "I need you to choose us. Not over your career, just alongside it." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled her close. I'm sorry. I didn't see how much you were carrying. I just kept thinking if I worked hard enough, if I provided enough, everything would be okay. We don't need you to be perfect, Elena said into his chest. We just need you to be here. Okay, Daniel said. Okay, I'll talk to my boss. I'll figure something out. Promise? Promise. The conversation with Daniel's boss didn't go well. This is a critical time for the branch, his boss said. We need someone we can count on, someone who's all in. If you can't commit to that, we'll need to find someone who can. Daniel came home shaken. He basically said it's this job or no job. He's bluffing, Elena said. What if he's not? They stayed up late running numbers. If Daniel lost this job, they'd be okay for a few months on savings. But Elena's school would have to wait. They'd have to cut back everywhere. And finding another job with this kind of pay in Denver wouldn't be easy. Maybe I was asking too much, Elena said finally. You weren't, Daniel said. You were asking me to be a present father and partner. That's not too much. That's the bare minimum. So what do we do? Daniel was quiet. Then he said, I tell him to shove it. Daniel, I'm serious. This job is eating me alive and it's destroying us. I'd rather flip burgers and have time with my family than make 6 figures and miss everything that matters. You don't mean that. I do, Daniel said. Elena, you walked away from a marriage that was killing you. You took a massive risk because you knew you deserved better. Now it's my turn. But the kids need a dad who's actually around, not someone who sends money and misses their childhoods. He took her hands. I'm calling his bluff. And if it's not a bluff, then I'll find something else. Something that lets me actually live. Elena's throat tightened. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The next day, Daniel went into the office and told his boss he needed a different arrangement. Fewer trips, predictable hours, a commitment that his family came first. His boss didn't take it well. You're making a huge mistake, he said. This kind of opportunity doesn't come around twice. Then I guess I'm making a mistake, Daniel said. They gave him 2 weeks to transition his responsibilities. No severance, no recommendation, just a terse email thanking him for his service and wishing him well. Daniel came home that afternoon and found Elena in the kitchen. I got fired, he said. Elena's heart stopped. What? Well, technically I quit, but they're calling it a termination for refusing job duties, so basically fired. He laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. I just blew up our entire financial stability. Elena crossed to him and kissed him hard. You did the right thing. We're going to be broke. We'll figure it out. Elena, we'll figure it out, she repeated firmly. Together. That night they told the kids over dinner. I'm not going to be working at the same place anymore, Daniel said. I'm going to look for something new. Something that lets me be home more. Lucas looked worried. Are we going to be okay? Yes, Daniel said. It might be tight for a while. We'll have to cut back on some things. But we're going to be okay. Does this mean we can get a dog? Mia asked. Daniel laughed despite himself. Let's get me a job first, and then we'll talk about the dog. Can Elena still go to school? Lucas asked. Elena's chest tightened. She'd been wondering the same thing. Yes, Daniel said before she could answer. That's non-negotiable. But, Elena started. Non-negotiable, Daniel repeated, looking at her. You've put your life on hold for too long. We're not doing that again. The job search was brutal. Denver's market was competitive, and Daniel's abrupt departure from his last position raised red flags. He sent out dozens of applications and got back form rejections or silence. Meanwhile, Elena picked up extra shifts at the bookstore and started tutoring on the side. Between her work and the kids and Daniel's increasing frustration with the job hunt, the house felt tense and fragile. 1 month in, their savings were dwindling. 2 months in, they were having hard conversations about selling the truck or moving to a cheaper place. This is my fault, Daniel said one night. I should have just sucked it up and kept the job. No, Elena said. You made the right choice. It's just harder than we thought. Harder doesn't pay the bills. We'll figure it out, Elena said, though she was starting to wonder if that was true. The breakthrough came from Christine, of all people. My firm's looking for a project manager, she said when she dropped Ben off one afternoon. It's not glamorous, construction projects, dealing with contractors, lots of problem solving. But the hours are reasonable and the pay's decent. Want me to put in a word? Daniel interviewed the next week. The owner, a gruff man named Pete, who looked like he'd been building things since the dawn of time, asked hard questions and didn't seem impressed by Daniel's corporate background. This isn't some fancy office job, Pete said. You'll be on site dealing with real problems, crews who show up late, permits that get denied, clients who change their minds every 5 minutes. You think you can handle that? Yes, Daniel said. Absolutely. Why'd you leave your last job? Daniel could have lied, could have smoothed it over. Instead, he told the truth. Because it was destroying my family. And my family matters more than any job. Pete studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. You start Monday. Daniel called Elena from the parking lot, his voice shaking with relief. I got it. Oh, thank God, Elena said. Oh, thank God. That night felt like a celebration. They ordered pizza, let the kids stay up late, and Daniel seemed lighter than he had in months. It's going to be different, he warned Elena as they got ready for bed. Less money than before, longer hours, some weeks when we're on deadline. But I'll be here. Really here. That's all that matters, Elena said. The new job was hard in different ways. Daniel came home dirty and exhausted, with stories about stubborn clients and equipment failures. But he also came home at 6, made it to soccer games and school plays, helped with homework and read bedtime stories. And slowly, the family started to breathe again. Elena went back to her classes with renewed focus. She'd switched her major to counseling, inspired by everything she'd learned from watching Daniel's kids process their grief and her own journey from worthlessness to worth. You'd be good at that, Daniel said when she told him. Helping people. You think so? I know so. You helped me. You helped the kids. Hell, you even helped yourself. That's what good counselors do. The semester was brutal, reading and papers and exams on top of everything else. But Elena loved it, loved learning about trauma and resilience, loved understanding the frameworks for what she'd lived through. One of her professors pulled her aside after class one day. Your paper on complex trauma survivors rebuilding identity was exceptional, Professor Kim said. Have you thought about graduate school? Elena blinked. I'm barely keeping up with undergrad. I'm not saying now, but eventually, you have insight that can't be taught. Real lived experience combined with theoretical understanding. That's rare. The idea planted itself in Elena's mind and wouldn't leave. Graduate school, a real career, something that was entirely hers. You should do it, Daniel said when she mentioned it. When you're ready. That's years away. So, we've got time. At school, the kids were thriving in their own ways. Lucas joined the robotics club and discovered he was good at coding. Mia got the lead in the school musical and practiced her songs until everyone knew all the words by heart. Noah started kindergarten and came home every day with elaborate stories about his new friends. And then, on a random Tuesday in November, Mia asked the question Elena had been waiting for. Are you and Daddy getting married? They were making dinner, Elena cutting vegetables while Mia helped by eating half the peppers. Elena's hands stilled. Why do you ask? Because Ben's mom said you've been together for almost a year, and usually when grown-ups are together that long, they get married. And I want you to get married because then you'd be my real mom, not just my dad's girlfriend. Elena set down the knife. Mia, honey, I'm already real. Marriage wouldn't change that. But it would make that official, Mia insisted. Like, you couldn't leave. You'd be stuck with us forever. I'm not going to leave, Elena said gently. Marriage certificate or not, I'm here. I'm staying. Promise? Promise. But the conversation stuck with her. That night, she mentioned it to Daniel. She asked about marriage, Elena said. Daniel looked up from the project report he was reviewing. What did you say? That I wasn't going anywhere. But Daniel, is that something you want, eventually? Yes, Daniel said without hesitation. Absolutely. I've been thinking about it for months. I just wasn't sure if you were ready. I don't know if I am, Elena admitted. My first marriage was such a disaster. The idea of trying again is terrifying. I'm not Marcus, Daniel said. I know, but what if I mess this up? What if I'm not good enough at being a wife? Elena, Daniel set down his papers and came to sit beside her. You're already good enough. You've been good enough since the day I found you at that bus station. Marriage is just making official what we already know, that we're a family, that we choose each other, that we're in this for the long haul. You make it sound simple. It is simple, Daniel said. I love you. You love me. We love the kids. Everything else is just paperwork. Elena laughed despite herself. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. Good thing that wasn't the proposal then, Daniel said, grinning. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning when the kids were at their various activities, Daniel took Elena to the park where they'd had their first real family outing. Why are we here? Elena asked. You'll see. He led her to the same bench they'd sat on that day, and Elena saw that someone had decorated it. Flowers, real ones, not plastic, and a blanket spread out with a picnic basket. Daniel, what? He dropped to one knee. Elena's breath caught. I'm not good at speeches, Daniel said, and I don't have some elaborate plan. But I know this. You walked into our lives when we needed you most, and you stayed when you could have left. You loved my kids like they were yours. You fought for us even when it was hard. And I want to spend the rest of my life showing you that you made the right choice. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious diamond Marcus had given her. Elena Carter, will you marry me? Elena looked at this man who'd stopped for her on the worst night of her life, who'd offered her shelter when she had nowhere to go, who'd fought for her, supported her, loved her through every messy, imperfect moment. Yes, she said. Yes. Daniel's face split into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. He slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. The kids helped pick it out, he admitted. Mia insisted on this one because it has your birthstone. Elena laughed through tears. They knew? I asked their permission first. Lucas said it was about time. Mia cried and said she could finally stop worrying you'd leave. And Noah asked if this meant he could call you Mom. Elena's throat tightened. What did you tell him? That he should ask you himself. They went home to tell the kids officially. The reactions were exactly what Elena expected. Mia screamed and tackled her with a hug. Lucas grinned and said, finally. And Noah looked up with his big, serious eyes. Can I call you Mom now? He asked. Elena knelt down to his level. You can call me whatever feels right to you. Okay, Noah said. Then, testing it out. Mom? Yeah, buddy? I'm hungry. Everyone laughed, and the moment passed into normalcy. But Elena felt it settle into her bones. This new title, this new role, this new life that was somehow, impossibly, hers. That night, after the kids were asleep and she and Daniel were curled up on the couch, Elena looked at the ring on her finger and thought about how far she'd come. From that frozen bus station to this warm house, from worthless to worthy, from broken to whole. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked. How lucky I am, Elena said. We're the lucky ones, Daniel corrected. No, Elena said. I mean it. A year ago, I had nothing. Now I have everything. Daniel kissed her temple. You always had everything. You just needed someone to help you see it. Elena smiled and settled deeper into his arms. She still had hard days, still struggled with doubt, with the voice that whispered she didn't deserve this. But she was learning to quiet that voice, learning to trust that she belonged here. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, wrapped in Daniel's arms and surrounded by the quiet sounds of her family sleeping, Elena realized something. She wasn't waiting anymore. Not for permission, not for proof, not for someone to tell her she was enough. She already was. And she was finally ready to believe it. Planning a wedding turned out to be harder than Elena expected, and not for the reasons she'd anticipated. It wasn't the budget. They'd agreed on something small and simple. It wasn't the guest list, just close friends and family. It wasn't even the kids, who had strong opinions about everything from cake flavors to whether they should release doves at the ceremony. Doves are for rich people, Lucas said pragmatically. We should get something cooler, like owls. Owls aren't romantic, Mia argued. They're just birds that eat mice. So are doves, Lucas shot back. The real problem was Elena herself. Every decision felt weighted with meaning she couldn't articulate. Choosing a dress felt like choosing an identity. Picking vows felt like making promises she wasn't sure she knew how to keep. Even something as simple as selecting flowers made her freeze. "What if I pick the wrong ones?" she asked Daniel one night, staring at pictures of bouquets on her laptop. "Then we'll have the wrong flowers," Daniel said. "It's not the end of the world." "But it's our wedding. It should be perfect." "It should be ours," Daniel corrected gently. "Perfect doesn't exist, you know that." She did know that, but knowing something intellectually and believing it emotionally were two different things. The truth was, Elena was terrified. Not of marrying Daniel, she wanted that more than anything, but of what it meant, of standing in front of people and declaring she was enough, she was worthy, she deserved this happiness. What if she was wrong? Rachel flew in 2 weeks before the wedding to help with final preparations. She took one look at Elena's face and knew. "You're spiraling," Rachel said. "I'm not spiraling, I'm just thinking." "That's what you call spiraling." Rachel sat down next to her. "Talk to me. What's really going on?" Elena tried to explain. About the weight of the decision, about feeling like an imposter, about the voice that still whispered, even after everything, that she didn't belong here. "You think you're going to wake up one day, and it's all going to be gone," Rachel said. "The life, the family, Daniel, like it was never real." "Yes," Elena whispered. "That's trauma talking," Rachel said. "Marcus spent years convincing you that love was conditional, that you had to earn it, that one mistake would cost you everything. But Elena, that's not how real love works." "I know that here." Elena tapped her head. "But here," she put her hand over her heart. "Here, I'm still that woman at the bus station, cold and alone and certain I've used up all my chances." "Then maybe it's time to say goodbye to her," Rachel said. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. "What?" "That version of you, the one Marcus broke. She got you through. She survived. But you don't need her anymore. You've built something new, something real, and she's holding you back." Elena felt tears burn her eyes. "I don't know how to let her go." "Yes, you do," Rachel said. "You've been doing it bit by bit since the day you got in Daniel's truck. Now you just have to finish it." That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She got up and found herself standing in front of the mirror, studying her reflection. She looked different than she had a year and a half ago. Her face was fuller, less gaunt. Her eyes were brighter. She stood straighter, took up more space. But she could still see her, that other Elena. The one who'd believed every cruel word Marcus said, the one who'd shrunk herself to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered to her reflection. "I'm sorry he made you believe you were nothing. I'm sorry you spent so long thinking you had to earn love. But you were wrong, and I can't carry you anymore." It felt silly, talking to herself in the mirror at 2 in the morning, but it also felt necessary. "Thank you for surviving," Elena continued. "Thank you for not giving up. But I'm okay now. We're okay. And it's time to let you rest." She didn't expect it to feel like anything, but standing there saying the words out loud, Elena felt something shift. Not dramatically, not like a switch flipping, more like a weight she'd been carrying finally, quietly, setting itself down. When she climbed back into bed, Daniel stirred. "You okay?" "Yeah," Elena said, and meant it. "I'm okay." The wedding was set for a Saturday in late spring in the backyard of Christine's house because she'd offered and wouldn't take no for an answer. "You gave me my son back," Christine said when Elena tried to protest. "Let me do this." The morning of the wedding, Elena woke up to Mia bouncing on her bed. "It's your wedding day!" Mia shrieked. "Get up! Get up! Get up!" Rachel groaned from the air mattress on the floor. "Kid, it's 6 in the morning." "So, we have stuff to do." Elena laughed and pulled Mia into a hug. Okay, I'm up." The house descended into controlled chaos. Hair and makeup. Dresses that needed last-minute adjustments. Noah spilling juice on his shirt and needing a complete outfit change. Lucas disappearing to practice his reading. He'd agreed to do a passage during the ceremony, and he was taking it very seriously. Through it all, Elena felt strangely calm. The spiraling from the weeks before had quieted. She was just ready. Rachel helped her into her dress, simple and cream-colored, nothing like the elaborate gown she'd worn for Marcus. This one felt like her, comfortable, real. You look beautiful, Rachel said, her voice thick. Don't cry, Elena warned. You'll make me cry and then my makeup will be ruined. Too bad. I'm crying anyway. Rachel hugged her carefully, mindful of the dress. I'm so proud of you. You know that, right? I know, Elena said. Thank you for everything, for not giving up on me when I gave up on myself. That's what sisters do, Rachel said. Mia appeared in the doorway, wearing her flower girl dress, and a very serious expression. It's time. The ceremony was small and simple, exactly as they'd planned. Folding chairs in Christine's backyard, flowers from the farmer's market, a playlist running from someone's phone instead of a live musician. But when Elena walked down the makeshift aisle, Lucas on one side, Mia on the other, Noah scattering petals ahead of them, and saw Daniel waiting for her, nothing else mattered. He was crying, not hiding it, not trying to be stoic, just letting the tears fall while he smiled at her like she was the only person in the world. The ceremony was short. The officiant, a friend of Daniel's from work, kept it simple and warm. Lucas read a passage about love being patient and kind, his voice only shaking a little. Mia handed over the rings with exaggerated care, making everyone laugh. And then it was time for vows. Daniel went first. Elena, when I met you, I was drowning. Not in any obvious way. I was paying bills and getting the kids to school and going through the motions. But I'd forgotten what it felt like to actually live. You reminded me. You walked into our lives and made us whole again. Not by replacing what we'd lost, but by showing us we could build something new, something different, something ours. I promise to choose you every day, to fight for us, to love you through the hard parts and the easy parts and everything in between. I promise to never make you feel like you have to earn your place in this family, because you already belong. You always have. Elena's hand shook as she unfolded her own vows. Daniel, you stopped for me on the worst night of my life. You could have kept driving. Should have, probably. But you didn't. You saw someone who needed help, and you helped. No conditions, no expectations. You just showed up. And you've been showing up every day since. You've taught me that love isn't something you earn. It's something you choose. And I choose you. I choose these kids. I choose this messy, imperfect, beautiful life we're building together. I promise to keep showing up, to keep fighting, to stop waiting for permission to be happy, and just be happy. With you. For as long as you'll have me. Forever, Daniel said, not caring that it wasn't his turn to talk. I'll have you forever. The officiant laughed. Well, that makes the next part easy. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Daniel, kiss your bride before you interrupt again. Daniel did. And Elena kissed him back, surrounded by the people who'd become her family, in a backyard that smelled like flowers and grass and new beginnings. When they broke apart, the small crowd erupted in cheers. Mia was crying. Noah was eating leftover flower petals. Lucas was grinning so wide his face looked like it might split. And Elena felt whole. The reception was a backyard barbecue with mismatched tables and a cake from the grocery store that Mia had decorated with approximately 1 million sprinkles. There were no speeches, no formalities, just people eating and laughing and celebrating. Pete, Daniel's boss, cornered them by the grill. You two are good for each other, he said gruffly. Don't screw it up. We'll try not to, Daniel said, laughing. Christine pulled Elena aside while Daniel was distracted by a debate about whether hot dogs counted as sandwiches. I was wrong about you, Sa, she said. When we first met, I thought you'd be gone in 6 months. I'm glad I was wrong. Me too, Elena said. Ben asks about you constantly, wants to know if Lucas can come over, if you'll help with his science project, if you think dragons are real. Christine shook her head. You're good with kids? Have you ever thought about working with them? Professionally, I mean? I'm studying to be a counselor, Elena said. Eventually, I'd love to work with kids who've been through trauma, help them the way... She stopped. Help them. You'd be great at that, Christine said. You've got the right kind of heart for it. As the sun started to set, Daniel found Elena standing at the edge of the yard, watching the kids play. Having fun? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. The best, Elena said. This is perfect. Even though we didn't have doves or owls? Especially because we didn't have doves or owls. She leaned back against him. Thank you. For what? For all of it. For stopping that night. For letting me stay. For loving me even when I didn't know how to love myself. You don't have to thank me for that, Daniel said. Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. They stood there in the fading light, watching their kids play, and Elena felt something she'd spent most of her life chasing. Peace. The months after the wedding settled into a new rhythm. Elena finished her undergraduate degree with honors and immediately applied to graduate programs. Daniel's construction job turned into a promotion, site supervisor with better pay and real benefits. The kids grew. Lucas started middle school and became obsessed with robotics. Mia discovered theater and threw herself into every school production with terrifying enthusiasm. Noah learned to read and insisted on reading everything out loud, including cereal boxes and stop signs. And Elena started to build the career she'd always wanted. She was accepted into a graduate counseling program with a focus on trauma and family systems. The coursework was brutal, the hours were long, but she loved it. Loved learning the theories behind what she'd lived. Loved understanding the frameworks for healing, her professors noticed. You have a gift for this, one of them said after Elena presented a case study. The way you talk about resilience, it's not just academic for you. You've lived it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Elena asked. It's the best thing, the professor said. The best counselors are the ones who've done their own work, who've sat in the dark and found their way out. You can't guide someone through something you've never experienced yourself. For her practicum, Elena chose to work with children in foster care. Kids who'd been moved around, who didn't know where they belonged, who'd learned not to trust that good things could last. Kids like she'd been, in a way. Her first client was a 9-year-old girl named Sophia who'd been in 7 placements in 3 years. She came to the first session with her arms crossed and her walls up. I don't need to be here, Sophia said. I'm fine. Elena recognized that defense, had used it herself more times than she could count. Okay, she said, then we'll just hang out. You don't have to talk about anything you don't want to. Sophia eyed her suspiciously. Really? Really? They spent the first 3 sessions barely talking. Elena let Sophia control the space, drawing, playing with the fidget toys, just existing without pressure. In the 4th session, Sophia asked, Why do you do this? Work with kids like me. Because I know what it's like, Elena said honestly, to feel like you don't belong anywhere, like you're always temporary, like one mistake will cost you everything. Sophia looked at her sharply. You were in foster care? No, but I was in a different kind of situation where I felt that way. And I want kids to know that feeling temporary doesn't mean you are temporary, that you can find a place where you belong. Did you? Sophia asked. Find a place? Yeah, Elena said. I did. It took a while, and it wasn't perfect, but I found it. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, My new foster mom says she wants to adopt me, but I don't believe her. People always say stuff like that, and then they change their minds. That's scary, Elena acknowledged, not knowing if it's real. How do you know? Sophia asked. When it's real? Elena thought about Daniel, about the kids, about a 1.5 years of slowly learning to trust that this wasn't going to disappear. You don't know for sure, Elena said. Not at first, but you start to notice things, little things, like when someone shows up when they say they will, when they don't give up when things get hard, when they fight for you instead of just saying they will. Eventually, all those little things add up, and one day you realize, this is real. This is home. Sophia looked at her with ancient eyes and a child's face. What if I mess it up? Then you mess it up and you figure out how to fix it, Elena said. That's what families do. Real families, anyway. They don't give up on you because you make mistakes. They stick around and help you do better next time. When Sophia left that day, she hugged Elena. Quick and awkward, but real. Elena drove home with tears in her eyes, thinking about that little girl and all the other kids like her who just needed someone to tell them they were worth staying for. At home, dinner was its usual chaos. Mia was describing her audition for the spring musical in excruciating detail. Lucas was trying to explain a coding problem to Daniel, who was nodding along and clearly understanding maybe 30%. Noah was building a fort out of couch cushions and narrating the entire process. Elena stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching this loud, messy, imperfect life that she got to be part of. Daniel looked up and caught her eye. "You okay?" "Yeah," Elena said. "I'm good. Just taking it in." After dinner, after homework and baths and the nightly battle to get Noah to actually stay in bed, Elena and Daniel collapsed on the couch. "How was your day?" Daniel asked. Elena told him about Sophia, about the conversation they'd had, about how strange and wonderful it was to help someone through something she'd barely survived herself. "You're going to be amazing at this," Daniel said. "You already are." "I hope so," Elena said. "These kids deserve someone who gets it, who won't give up on them." "Like someone didn't give up on you," Daniel said quietly. Elena looked at him. "You saved my life. You know that, right?" "No," Daniel said. "I gave you a ride and a place to stay. You saved your own life. You chose to stay. You chose to fight. You chose to believe you deserved better. All I did was hold the door open." "You did more than that." "Maybe," Daniel allowed. "But Elena, you did the hard part. You did the work. Don't give me credit for your strength." Elena kissed him, long and slow. "I love you. I love you too." The next year brought more changes. Elena graduated with her master's degree and got hired at a nonprofit that worked with at-risk youth. The pay wasn't great, but the work mattered. She was helping kids like Sophia find their footing, teaching them that their worth wasn't determined by their circumstances. Daniel's company landed a major contract that meant steady work for the foreseeable future. Lucas got accepted into a prestigious STEM program at his school. Mia landed the lead in her musical and brought the house down every performance. Noah lost his first tooth and was convinced the tooth fairy was real because she left him $2 in a note. "We're doing okay," Daniel said one night, looking at their bank statement. "Like, actually okay. We have savings. We're not drowning. When did that happen?" "Gradually," Elena said, "and then all at once." They talked about having a baby, Elena's own baby, a child that would be biologically theirs. But after a lot of discussion and some hard truths, they decided against it. "I spent so long thinking I was worthless because I couldn't have kids," Elena said. "And now I have 3 kids who are mine in every way that matters. I don't need biology to prove I'm a mother." "You're sure?" Daniel asked. "I'm sure," Elena said. "This family is enough. More than enough. It's everything." On the anniversary of the day they'd met, Elena insisted on marking it, even though Daniel thought it was cheesy. They went back to the bus station. It looked the same. Cold metal benches, flickering lights, the same dingy waiting room with its buzzing fluorescence. "I can't believe this is where it started," Elena said. "I can't believe I almost didn't stop," Daniel admitted. "I was tired, I was late. I had a million reasons to just keep driving." "What made you stop?" Daniel thought about it. "You look so small, so lost, and I just couldn't leave you there. It felt wrong." Elena looked at the bench where she'd sat that night, shivering and broken and certain her life was over. That version of her felt like a stranger now, someone she used to know but no longer recognized. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stopped?" Elena asked. "Every day," Daniel said. "And then I look at our life, and I thank whatever force in the universe made me pull over." "Luck," Elena said. "Love," Daniel corrected. "I didn't know it then. But that's what it was. Love at first sight. Not the romantic kind. The kind where you see someone who needs help and you just help. No conditions, no expectations. Just one person showing up for another person." Elena leaned against him. "That night, I thought I'd lost everything. My marriage, my home, my sense of self. I thought I was at rock bottom." "You were," Daniel said. "And you climbed out. You built something new. You became someone new." "No," Elena said. "I became who I always was. I just finally had space to do it." They stood there in the cold, looking at the place where everything had changed, and Elena felt the last piece of her old life fall away. She wasn't that woman anymore, the one who believed she was worthless, the one who accepted cruelty as love, the one who made herself small to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. She was Elena Hayes now. Wife, mother, Counselor, survivor, fighter. Someone who'd learned that worth wasn't something you earned. It was something you claimed. Ready to go home? Daniel asked. Yeah, Elena said. Let's go home. Home was loud when they walked in. Mia was practicing her songs at full volume. Lucas was arguing with someone on a video call about the best programming language. Noah was showing Rachel, who'd come to visit for the weekend, his extensive collection of rocks. How was your trip down memory lane? Rachel asked. Good, Elena said. Weird, but good. Rachel studied her face. You look different. Different how? Settled, Rachel said, like you finally believe you're supposed to be here. Elena smiled. I do, I really do. That night, after the kids were asleep and Rachel had gone to bed in the guest room, Elena and Daniel sat on their porch, their ritual, the place where they'd first admitted they loved each other. I've been thinking about something, Daniel said. What's that? When I met you, you were at your lowest point, and I was barely holding it together. We were both kind of a mess. We were definitely a mess, Elena agreed. And now look at us. We're not perfect. We still fight about whose turn it is to do dishes. And the kids still drive us crazy, and money's still tight sometimes. But we're okay. Better than okay. We're actually happy. We are, Elena said. Where are you going with this? Daniel turned to face her. I guess I'm just amazed by it. How two broken people can find each other and build something whole. How love, real love, not the toxic kind, can actually heal things. How choosing each other every day can create something that lasts. Elena took his hand. We weren't broken. We were just unfinished. And we finished each other. That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said. I know, Elena laughed, but it's true. They sat in comfortable silence, and Elena thought about the journey that had brought her here, from that bus station to this porch, from worthless to worthy, from alone to surrounded by love. It hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks and struggles and moments when she'd wanted to give up, but she'd kept going, kept choosing to believe she deserved better, kept showing up for herself and for this family. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. Thank you, Elena said quietly. For what? For seeing me. For stopping. For giving me a chance to figure out who I was supposed to be. You did that yourself, Daniel said. I just gave you a safe place to do it. That's everything, Elena said. A safe place. That's what you gave me. That's what this family gave me, and I'm never going to take it for granted. Daniel pulled her close. You're not supposed to take it for granted. You're supposed to live it, fully, messily, without apology. I'm learning, Elena said. You're doing more than learning, Daniel said. You're thriving, and I get to watch it happen every day. That's the real gift. Not that I saved you, but that you let me be part of your story. Elena kissed him, slow and deep, and felt gratitude wash through her. Not just for Daniel, but for all of it. For the kids who'd accepted her. For Rachel, who'd believed in her. For Christine, who'd challenged her. For Sophia and all the other kids she got to help. For herself. For having the courage to keep going when it would have been easier to give up. The next morning, Elena woke to Noah standing beside her bed. Mom? He whispered. The word still made her heart skip. Yeah, buddy? I had a bad dream. Elena lifted the covers. Come here. Noah climbed in, his small body warm and trusting, and curled into her side. Within minutes, he was asleep again, his breathing even and peaceful. Elena looked at this child who called her mom, who trusted her with his nightmares and his joy and his endless questions about how clouds worked, who'd chosen her as much as she'd chosen him. And she realized something. She'd spent so long looking for external validation, waiting for someone to tell her she was enough, she was worthy, she mattered. But the truth was simpler than that. She'd always been enough, even on that bus station bench, even in her marriage to Marcus, even in every moment when she'd felt small and invisible and worthless. The circumstances had been wrong, the people had been wrong, but she, her core self, her essential worth, had always been there, waiting for her to recognize it. And now she did. She wasn't perfect. She still had days when the old doubts crept in, still struggled sometimes with feeling like she didn't deserve this happiness, still caught herself waiting for the other shoe to drop. But those moments were getting rarer. And when they came, she had tools to fight them, had people who reminded her of her worth, had a life that proved every single day that she belonged. Daniel stirred beside her, reached over to pull both her and Noah closer, half asleep, completely content. This was her life now. These people. This home. This love that asked for nothing except that she keep showing up. And she would, every day, for as long as they'd have her. Which, if she'd learned anything, was going to be forever. Years later, Elena would look back on this moment. Noah asleep in her arms, Daniel's hand warm on her hip, the morning light streaming through the curtains, and recognize it as the moment she finally, fully believed. She wasn't temporary. She wasn't conditional. She wasn't someone who had to earn her place. She was home. She was chosen. She was loved. And more importantly, she loved herself. The woman who'd sat shivering at that bus station was gone, laid to rest with gratitude and grace. In her place was someone stronger, braver, more whole. Someone who'd learned that rock bottom wasn't the end of the story. It was just the place where you stopped digging and started climbing. Someone who'd learned that family wasn't just biology. It was choice and commitment and showing up day after day, even when it was hard. Someone who'd learned that love, real love, didn't make you smaller. It made you more yourself than you'd ever been. Elena Carter had spent most of her life being told she wasn't enough. But Elena Hayes knew better. She was enough. She'd always been enough. She just needed the right people to help her see it. And now, surrounded by those people, living a life she'd built from nothing, she finally understood what she'd been searching for all along. Not perfection, not validation, not proof that she deserved to exist. Just this, just love, just home, just the quiet certainty that she belonged exactly where she was. And that was more than enough. It was everything.